Thanks for joining, Dr. Shubu. So we're going to have some questions for you. And also, if you want, you could introduce yourself. But probably not needed. So the focus of this interview is more about giving some advice to your students. So we'll ask a few questions. So the first question is, when do you look for students? Could be interns or full-time. What kind of characteristics do you look for? What are the most important parts?
Yeah, so to introduce myself, so I'm Shubu Mukherjee. I run the architecture group in SiFive. I'm Vice President of Architecture, and we definitely look. So before you say what you look for, I think you kind of have to step back and ask, what is it that motivates people, like moves people in leadership and stuff. And in the end, it's all about new ideas, right? So, and my kids make fun of me, but I keep saying people don't follow people follow ideas. So, for example, Krista Sanovich and Vinsuk and Andrew founded SiFive based on this idea that there could be an open ISA RISC-V, right? So the key thing is to say, but before you can actually generate an idea, you have to become an expert in the domain. So generate the expertise, so that you can talk intelligently, and then you'll automatically see ideas are going to start coming, and then you evaluate them. Ideas a dime a dozen. The question is, how do you then get that idea to a point where it's either in an academic sense you can evaluate the idea, like if it's about measuring, if it's about improving something, you have to be able to measure and model. And it's an industrial setting, then you have to take the idea through implementation. So what we call architects work from cradle to grave. So at the cradle, the ideas generate typically, a lot of them come later on, but you go through the full cycle of debug. And that is very important because the details matter, right? So as you're going through the entire cycle, you'll see the details. So that builds character. So overall, I think stepping back, what you really want to do is generate ideas, but at the same time have the tenacity to carry it through all the way.
So in industry, what are the measures of success?
It varies depending on what role you're playing. I run the architecture team, and again, the architecture team, what I said, is two measures of success typically. You have to be able to, so the architects, at least in SiFive, are kind of providing the leadership by construction and definition. It's an IP company, right? So in there, the architects really have to work out, within the constraints. So I always thought engineers and architects are great. It's given, if you know the constraints, then you can come up with solutions, right? And we're always trying to solve either a direct customer's problem or a problem that we think customers will face. So the question is, first of all, recognize the problem. That's it. Then come up with new ideas to solve it. And third, when you solve it, carry it all the way through to implementation. These are the sort of the three things that you have to do.
I see. Thank you. Probably in your position you won, but for other people, how did industry people choose the project? What to work on?
Again, that goes back into saying that, so you look at the constraints. So let's say that we can, and we're going through this ourselves. It's not just for a particular individual, it's for the company also, right? So we are really, SiFive architecture, RISC-V is pretty much on fire right now, as you have seen. And for us, for example, we're starting to think, how do we provide the leadership in the next generation, beyond what our competition has been doing in x86 and on. So the question is, okay, so what are the emerging problems, right? And then there are many of these coming up. And I always say predicting the future is very easy. If you look around, you should be able to predict what's going to happen in the next 5 years. And then you start figuring out, okay, there are 10 problems, I can solve 3, right, in your realistic constraints, right? And then of the 3, focus and then start building the solutions. But again, the first question is always the name of the game here, is identify the problem first. Right? And that's what we're doing it as a company, because that's where the money is. You have to do it at an individual level, because that's where your career is tied to.
Thank you. And this last question is a little bit more for personal. So could you describe what's your daily life? If you could share.
Yeah. So let me talk about architects because that's sort of what we do, the daily life of people who develop RTL or who do verifications is a little bit different. So the daily life is typically, there are a number of things we do. The most important thing an architect does is writing specs, specifications, whether it's a high-level specification or micro-architecture, it's pretty straightforward. So.
How do you do work-life balance?
Good point. So, so for example, I work in SiFive right now, right? What I do is and then we're a global company. We have sites in Taiwan, India, England, France, Italy. We don't have a site, we have an entity. 3 in California, Boston, we're opening an office, Austin. So it's all over the place, right? The architecture team is completely virtual, or mostly virtual. So what I end up doing is, a couple of things I do. I block off my calendar because when it's 6, 7 o'clock my time, it's 4 o'clock West Coast time. I headquarters to West Coast. So people would start to set up meetings. So I block off my calendar. That's one thing. And second thing is, there is no expectation that you are required to attend meetings at an odd time like 6 in the morning or a regular meeting at 8 p.m. Having said that, we do have once in a while we will get customer meetings. I was just a couple of weeks back. I was in a customer meeting till 12:30 because that was with Asia, and the timing often becomes a challenge. So we do that, but at the same time, what I personally do is, if it starts to build up, right, and then my problem with architecture team is not that they don't work; it's the other way around. They work too hard. So I'm always like pulling people back. So I'm doing that as a manager. But personally, what I do is if I get to that point, I just walk away. No meetings. I just take the whole day off. I can't deal with this anymore, and then recharge. And that is very important to keep one's sanity, because things are, as you know, things at least now in the industry is going at a lightning pace. So it is always you're continuously in this problem-solving mode. You got to give yourself a break. So that works for me.
Okay, thank you so much for spending time with us. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.